Alright, well, here's a video I've been wanting to do for a while. This is my forge. Built it up from cinder blocks. I just recently rebuilt it. I had some problems with it, but I made the adjustments and now it's working pretty good. See here I have, this was a black iron pipe. It's about 1.5 inches diameter. See, it comes out here, and there on the end for my air source. I don't have it hooked up right now, but you see that air duct hose. As we tape it to the end there, I took it off. You see the tape where I cut it because I had to clear out some ashes from here out from the last time that I was making a knife. And I don't have it out here right now, but I use a leaf blower. You see the connection there on the other end? It's an electric leaf blower that I use to blow air into my forge. But the reason I have all this stuff set up here is because the leaf blower was actually too strong. It was blowing out so much air that it was actually blowing big chunks of charcoal out of the forge, chunks like that. Pieces like this, but you know, they were on fire when they're being blown out, so I was worried it was gonna start a fire out here. So what this is a PVC ball bearing valve, and see right there, that's closed a little bit, that's open all the way. This end right here is where the leaf blower connects, over there. This end goes to the tweer, but when I have the valve open, most of the air actually comes out. But even when this is open all the way, still enough air gets through over here to get the fire hot enough to work with. And then if I need to close this a little bit, just that much will make a pretty big difference, and that fire will get really, really hot. Kind of funny little story. I burnt my thumb pretty bad this past weekend when I was working on a new knife. This right here is a cinder block. It used to be bricks. I just stacked on top of each other. They fell over, and I gave it some time. I thought it'd be cooled off enough, and I was actually wearing gloves, but I touched the brick for just a second and it burned me through the glove, and I had a big blister on my thumb and hurt like you wouldn't believe. But anyway, so that's my forge. That's how it works. And over here, it's pretty cool. I just got this past weekend. It's a steel I-beam. It's actually pretty huge. It's about 2 feet tall. Weighs 110 pounds. I bought it from a scrapyard. They gave me a really good deal on it. They only charged me about 45 cents a pound. So it's probably like about, I think about 50 bucks, 60 bucks, somewhere around there. And I bought these pieces of angle iron. I'm going to be welding them on here, hopefully this week. Because with the heat of the knife, when you're pounding on this, even though this is like a 1/4 inch thick, the heat will still make it warp and lose its shape a little bit. So those, when I weld them on here, it's going to give it some support so it'll last longer. And this, my latest project. I still don't really know if I'm going to make it a Bowie knife or just give it a drop point or be a field knife or what, but I'll decide later. It's made out of 5160 spring steel. You actually see right here, that's a section of leaf spring that I cut up. This half I'm definitely going to make into a really long buoy. This one's already pretty long, but about right here I think I'm going to start working the handle part. What's it called? The tang of the blade. So it's going to be a pretty long blade right there already. But then this half I'm going to make into sort of a small machete type blade. And this stuff already is it's pretty tough to work with, man. I'm really excited to see what it's going to be like after I harden and temper it, see what its properties are going to be like. Because as tough as it is to work right now, I can tell it's going to be a really tough knife. So anyways, I guess I'll show you some of the knives that I made. I have about 3 of them. I've made about 4 or 5, but I'll show you those in a little bit. Oh, before I go on to that part, I'll show you. You might have noticed this weight right here. This actually was my first anvil. Used it for the longest time. 35-pound dumbbell. And I got it because it has these flat faces on both sides. So that really came in handy. So, you know, your forge doesn't have to be this big or this complicated, and your anvil doesn't have to be anything fancy. When I first started making knives, I actually used a dirt forge, and back then I used an old air compressor that I have for my air source. It used to be right here. I built this on top of it. Back then for my tweer I just had this L-shaped section. Yeah, it was open on this end, so it would just blow air directly onto the coals. You know, it just had a hole in the ground about the same size as this, and about a foot deep, I think, a little bit less than a foot deep. And I just laid this into the hole with that part sticking out, and it blew air directly onto the coals, and that worked great. It worked really good. I actually kind of missed that because it was so simple and easy to use, but this one works great. I really love it. And then these cinder blocks give me a little storage space. See, I got the other half of that leaf spring section, and I got a few rail spikes that a friend gave me. Alright, now we'll get to the knives. I'll show you some of the knives I've made. Alright, here we are. These are the 3 knives I made that I've kept. Man, it's cold out here. Texas weather, man. Got up to 90 yesterday. It was really hot and humid, and now today it's about 43. And man, this wind is killing me. But anyways, what you gonna do? This is the latest one I've made. It's a dagger. I collect knives, and the very first knife I ever collected when I was a kid was a dagger. But it's a cheap little thing, but it broke, and I don't really have any other daggers in my collection. I figured it's been about 10 years since that dagger broke, maybe a little bit less, I don't know. But I said, it's time I had another dagger. This one is actually made out of an old Nicholson file, full tang. See there, it goes all the way through the handle. And I like that. I never liked those knives that have a really thin tang like that. That thin, and the handle just slides over it. But that's how my first dagger was. I actually still have the blade. The handle broke off, but I still have the blade and the guard of that knife. it's kind of sentimental to me. So that's the latest one that I made. This was the first railroad spike knife that I made that survived. I made a couple others, one that broke and one I left in the fire a little too long and it actually melted. You can see here, I don't know if the camera's picking it up so good, but you can see the hammer marks, and there's some texture on the blade from the scale, because I usually don't wipe the scale off of my anvil. But I actually like that. I like seeing the hammer marks, and I like seeing the texture from the scale. I think it just looks cool. I did a real simple cord wrap for the handle. And originally I was going to grind this down to be an even thickness, and I was going to put a wood handle on it. But I figured I liked that profile, the way it looked like that, and it actually feels pretty good in the hand. But this was actually going to be for a friend of mine. He gave me a bunch of railroad spikes to work with when I first told him that I was making knives. He's a diesel mechanic, and he'd done some work for the railroad. He went to their yard to work on some of the engines for their trains, I guess. And he said they had a big pile of spikes just laying around, and he asked the guy, "Y'all doing anything with those?" And he said, "No, you can have some. Take as many as you want." So he grabbed a big handful. And this is the second one I made for my little brother. I really don't like it the way it came out, because I was kind of in a hurry when I made it, so I didn't grind the edge right. There's all kinds of dips and uneven spots on it. The clip is sharpened, but you can see there it's not done right, it's not even. That was my first time trying to grind a clip, so, and all I had at the time was an angle grinder. So it was originally going to be a lot shorter and steeper clip, but it kept messing up and drawing it back and further back and further back. I finally decided to leave bad enough alone. But my brother likes it, so I guess that's the important thing. And I'll make him another one later on out of a better type of steel. The railroad spikes in general, I think they're really overrated. They don't harden very well, and I have experimented a lot with tempering and hardening these. These are actually tempered in oil. I used old motor oil. I want to try a couple more spike knives and quench them in water and see if they get any harder. But overall, I think these are a little overrated, which is why I'm so excited about these spring steel knives. So anyway, that's all I got for now.